Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Welcome, listeners, to Business Line State of the Economy podcast on agriculture for yet another episode. Climate change and food and nutrition insecurity pose two of the greatest challenges of our time. Yet, a more sustainable food system can not only heal the planet but ensure food security for all. Today, the global agri-food system emits 1/3 of all emissions. Food systems are the leading source of methane emissions and biodiversity loss, and they use 70% of fresh water. The global agri-food system must therefore deliver on multiple fronts. It must feed the world, adapt to climate change, and drastically reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. In response to these challenges, the concept of climate-smart agriculture has emerged as a holistic approach to end food security concerns, promote sustainable development, and address climate change issues. To tell us more about climate-smart agriculture and farming, we have with us Mr. Ashish Dobhal, CEO, UPL Sustainable Agri Solutions Limited. Welcome to Business Line, State of the Economy podcast and Agriculture, sir.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having us on this podcast. As a representative of UPL Sustainable Agri Solution, I lead the team. Climate smart farming, the first and most important thing, which we feel is education and awareness. So today, first thing is what exactly is climate smart farming, and how these practices are important to improve the resilience and of farming and reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase productivity. Something that first and foremost is the most important thing which is required to make it popular. Right now, to be very frank, in India, we are at the awareness stage. I think we are going to different places. We are, just to give you a sense on what UPL SAS is doing, we are doing programs in groundnut, in cotton, in maize, and we have a very popular program in paddy in Rajamundry, where we are talking about some of the climate smart practices of reducing methane emission or reducing nitrous oxide emission. But the first part is awareness. We spend a lot of money and efforts to make people aware of it. I hope through this podcast we reach out to more partners, more stakeholders. The second thing is, if once people are aware of this, then you of course need training. I think training and capacity building. I think it's not we have learned it the hard way while we are doing some efforts to reduce methane emissions in paddy in Rajamundry area. We have realized that how much you have to spend in terms of time and effort to train and capacity build, because some of these techniques are very new. How you measure it is very new. So I think there's a huge effort that goes into training. So I think training is second most important thing to make it popular. And nothing moves if there's no financial incentive. When we went to farmers and when we said, okay, we want to do this in your farm, this will help sort of, this is climate smart farming. This will, if you do this, we will be doing great for the climate and making farming overall sustainable. The farmer at the end of the day looks at his that month, that year, that quarter of profit or that crop's profit. So I think financial incentives, some sort of financial inclusion in terms of some subsidy, grant. I think we today we do it from our own pocket. We go and incentivize farmer with some free product or with some incentive. We've also paid if a farmer has followed some particular climate smart practices. We for methane emission, alternate wet and drying, we've tried in some areas. Or we've told them to follow some protocols which reduces water stress or nitrous oxide release. We had to pay them in kind or in some other form. So I think there has to be some financial incentive. And once you have the financial incentive, you also need some sort of a policy support. You want to implement policies that support climate smart farming. So I think because as a corporate, you can only do that much. But if it comes as a policy, like in many states in India, we feel that the local governments are getting very, very progressive, and they are coming up with some policies, let's say on direct seeded rice or some other stuff. But there's a lot that needs to be done to make climate smart farming popular, because farming is such a big. In India, farming is so fragmented and there are so many millions of farmers. Unless something comes at a farming level, at a policy level, you will never get to a scale. Right? And if you don't get to a scale, you cannot make a difference in climate. We are doing something in 2,000 acres or 10,000 acres, does not matter. I think unless it's done at 40, 50,000 acres, then it makes sense. And of course, a lot of these technologies of climate smart farming are still in the evolution phase, development phase. There's not enough science-backed data behind it that if you do X, Y will happen. I'll give you one example of methane emissions through alternative pattern drying. I think the methodologies, there's a lot that you have to spend on research and innovation on what are the right methodologies. Can those right methodologies be proven to make an impact on the environment is something which is there. And then, of course, you need to involve all the stakeholders. So while companies like us, corporates are doing their job in agriculture and being the local India-born multinational, we feel it's our duty. In some places, governments are coming up with policy, but you also need collaboration between, let's say, some corporates who would value the kind of climate smart produce that a farmer is doing, some NGOs, some farmer organizations, some global help groups who would say, okay, we would support if some company is going. Today, it's not too much. But I think that's something which is very, very important to, once again, bring scale to it. There's so much of research being done on, let's say, tuberculosis, and so much research being done on so many other diseases in the world. But climate smart farming in terms of importance is right up there. So I think we really have to figure out that can we get some global superstars behind this. And of course, you need to show it to the farmers that if you do it, it also gives you a better impact on your produce. So we do it through a lot of demonstration farms and all. And the most important, and this is my 4 years, I've been in India for the last 4 years and involved in various projects that we're trying to do on our own. We are not waiting for any global NGO, FPO policy to come. We do things on our own because we feel it's our responsibility. The biggest thing is we need the superstars to buy this climate smart produced product. So for example, if a group of farmers have adopted a climate smart practice, and if they get a produce, somebody should be able to give some premium. We've done a lot of stuff with like I said, with groundnut, cotton, and so many other products. But is somebody willing to buy that? If the guy gets the same price as the other guy who has not followed a climate smart practice, he has no incentive to life. He has 2 acres, he has to live his life. Can the superstars of the world, can the top FMCG companies of the world, can the famous coffee chains of the world, can the famous consumer durable companies in the world, can they come up and say, okay, we will buy your product, or we will give market access to it? I think can move the mountain. If 2 big superstars of beverage company or FMCG or some consumer durable company, they come up and say, okay, we're going to buy from you. That will lead to adoption. That will make it very popular. That, oh, these guys are buying if a farmer has followed this practice. But today, this is not the national news. Can it be made national news? Like for child labor, a lot of companies have said, okay, if there's child labor, we're not going to work with this guy. Can somebody say, unless a farmer has followed XYZ practice, which is beneficial for climate smart, we'll not buy from him, and we'll incentivize the guy who's following climate smart practice. So I think these are some of the things which I feel that if you implement this, climate smart farming can become very popular and widespread and contributing to the overall saving our climate and making agriculture resilient and sustainable.
Very valid point, sir. Now, how can the emission of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases be reduced?
We all know that we should use renewable energy. We should look at energy efficiency. We should look at carbon capture and storage in the industrial processes. We are doing it in our plants. But, I would stick to my core domain, which is agriculture. Yeah. So I think forestation and reforestation is need of the hour. Planting trees is the best way to sequester CO2. This is something now we've seen that there's a lot of effort behind it, but the efforts stop at the level of planting. What happens to those trees after that is something that we need to be very careful of, because we feel that the whole rhetoric stops once the trees are planted. So we've been promoting a lot of technology, and we felt that most of the times the afforestation or the reforestation efforts fail because the plantation is done and then there's a nice photo of people go back. But soil moisture is a huge concern, because unlike fields in the forest, it is left to the rain gods. So I think how do you make sure that so we have a Zeba technology platform which makes sure that the soil moisture is there for a longer period of the time till the time this whole forest is established. We had huge successes in so many places for this. I would still say it is cliched, it is an old thing. But I think with the kind of urbanization we are having, afforestation and reforestation is something which is very, very important. And of course, at the same time, we need to prevent deforestation. I think there has to be some areas which we have to leave alone. We also have stuff like, especially in our plants, what we do is, I think there has to be a proper waste management, including recycling and composting to reduce methane emissions. I think UPL has had we not just do it for ourselves, but we also do it for the industry. Again, shifting to sustainable agriculture practices like reducing emissions from agriculture sector, like methane from livestock and nitrous oxide from fertilizers. We have technologies available for it, but like I said, those are climate smart technologies. Once again, you need to create awareness about it, give training, give financial incentive, policy support. So I think we're trying to do that for our sustainable agriculture practices. That's why we, at least, like I started the whole podcast by saying, we said, yeah, let's put sustainable practices in our name only. So we are called UPL Sustainable Agro Solution, the India business of UPL. We are aware of our purpose, and state by state, I cannot think of any state in India where we are not doing something or the other. Whether it is tea, whether it is coffee, whether it is afforestation. We actually did a reforestation project in center of Delhi in Noida. We call it Ziba 1, where we use the Ziba technology and just planted the trees, left them on their own because of the fact that this product keeps the moisture alive in soil for many months. Those forests look amazing. We've been doing business on groundnut, and alternate wet and drying in Andhra is something that we've done. I think that really is a small effort. We still feel we are very, very, very small in terms of our effort. I think we still need to do more. We also have technologies which can prevent nitrous oxide release from fertilizers. I think that's another thing that sort of we're working for, is the Zebra technology helps in that also. And of course, we spend crores and crores of rupees to create awareness and bring behavior change. Before this meeting, I was in a call where, we are promoting climate smart practices, but I think it's not easy to change the behavior of the farmer to shift, let's say, the transplanting date from X to Y. I think it needs a lot of education. We have done it in groundnut in the third phase. If you use a particular climate smart product, the product can resist a lot of stress, and we don't actually have to spray a lot of products for him. But that needs a lot of behavior change. The farmers go back to the conventional practice that they've been doing for years. So I think awareness and behavior change is something is very, very important. In some of these factors and initiatives, I think can definitely lead to reduction of CO2, and of course, you have electric vehicles and you stop use of the fossil-based fuels. Those are some of the things that is anyways known to man. I've stuck to more towards the core to the sector to which I belong to.
Sir, UPL was among the first companies which began a pilot on stubble burning. So what are the lessons that have been learned from these pilot projects? What need to make success, particularly since last year the incidents came down?
We would love for the mainstream media to sort of talk about it. This was a program we had done with a lot of heart. Not many companies in India would be able to spend so much time, effort, energy, money, management bandwidth to identify a problem and then work on it without any profit motive. We have that year worked in Punjab and Haryana. We recognize this is a problem. So I think the following overall strategy, we realized there is a climate smart thing that we need to do. We identified a problem. We said, okay, let's create awareness. That year we created huge billboards, signboards, this, that in all over Punjab, Haryana. We spent massive money on marketing, training, spreading awareness. We actually gave incentive to the farmers. We made sure the sprays are free. We took Pusa decomposer, tied up with Pusa. So in terms of research and innovation, if you remember, this is how I started the whole conversation. Your financial incentive, you need to have research and innovation. We worked with IRI for a long time to develop that Pusa formulation in a way that it was very practical to use, and collaborated with a lot of local NGOs and did massive demonstrations and got a lot of success. I think we used our machines. People told us that you guys are going crazy because we were spending a lot of money and time and effort, and machines were burning petrol, and people were saying, you guys have gone crazy. Why do you want to spend so much money per acre? But, we did it, because somebody has to do it. And then we said that, if somebody has to do it, the number one company in India in agriculture, this is our responsibility. This is our home country. We have to do it. What the lessons we've learned is the most important thing, that what happens to this farmer who has followed this practice? Is his wheat being picked up by somebody and said, okay, you are great, you have allowed this to be done in your farm, right? Was there any policy support for us? The government would have said, okay, you've done a great job. will help to sort of spread it. One of the lessons that we've learned, out of that is it was a great thing. We definitely think that it can make change. But until somebody is at the end of the day willing to reward that farmer for following a particular practice, unless there is this financial incentive for him, unless all the stakeholders come together, it is something that one stakeholder cannot do. So I think you need to have all the stakeholders aligned. You need to have the FPOs, you need to have the government, you need to have the policymakers, you need to have somebody taking the offtake, you need to have the right R&D behind it. Only then it works. So we did it on our own. We will keep on doing it. But one of the lessons that we learned is we actually did at a very, very big scale. We need to do small scale, small pilots, then get all the stakeholders involved, then scale it up. I think we scaled up too fast and too much. Was the lesson that we've learned. Of course, it has proven hugely beneficial. I think it was one of the most sophisticated programs run where from a satellite we were able to monitor which field has been burnt, which field has not been burnt, where the impact of our sprays have been there, where the impact of our sprays has not been there. It was all automated program. It was not on our whims and fancies that, okay, we claim that it is done here or not. We have digitally recorded data for it. But I said we scaled too fast, too soon, too much is a lesson that we've learned. And you need somebody at because we are not at the farm produce buying level. We are more of an input company. Unless somebody is saying, okay, boss, you have followed this policy and we are going to incentivize you, it would not move, to be very frank, Panch.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been very insightful views and a lot of information of what's really happening in climate smart farming. So thank you very much. Hope we'll see you again on another episode. Thank you very much.